All right, so now for this one, it says write a linear factorization of the function. So prime factorization, normally when we have a quadratic, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. And we set it equal to 0, and then we factor it. And so usually we'll get like x minus p times x minus q, and something along those lines if it's factorable. Now the reason we call it a linear factorization is because this is a linear expression, and this is a linear expression. Well, this particular one, I can't do that, because 17 is a prime number. In other words, if I try to put this in the grid like this, I can't find two numbers, like this will be x and this will be x, and 17 and 1. It's just not going to add up to 0. So how do I factor x squared minus 17? You can use the quadratic formula as one way to do it. Okay. So let's do that. So if this is my equation, if my equation f of x is equal to x squared plus 17, then a is equal to 1 and c is equal to 17. What's b equal to?
0.
0. So I'm going to say that x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Well, the b terms are 0, so this goes away and this goes away. So really what I'm left with is x is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 17, all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. Now, what I end up with over here, I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to say the square root of negative 4, we got the plus or minus the square root of negative 4 times the square root of 17 all over 2. What's the square root of negative 4?
2i.
2i times the square root of 17. Whoops, I wrote down the wrong number. All over 2. What happens with my 2's? They cancel. And don't forget I got this plus or minus. So what I'm saying is x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 17i. Or you could write it with the I in the front. Now if I take both those and set it equal to 0, I'm going to get, oops, I got to put that back in there. I'm going to get, oh dang it. I'm too quick for the board. Okay, D. Right? Because if I set that equal to 0, I'll get x plus or minus I square root of 17 equals 0. Right? And so then I'd separate that x plus I square root of 17 times x minus I square root of 17 equals 0. Does that make sense?